I got a really fun question because it kind of really changed my life, and it's something that you were part of. And that is the Aspen Film Festival. Can you speak a little bit to how it got its wings and who the members were that sort of started that?
Yeah, Kohner Hunt set the festival up. Kohner at the time. It was probably 81, and she enlisted Gail Holstein and Judy Royer and a couple of other, Lee Duncan and a couple of other women, and said, I want to start a film festival. She had been married to a director. She had gobs of money, and she had her Hollywood connection. So in 81, they established the first film fest, and then I was invited to be, we were all volunteers for years, and we used to take turns screening the films at our houses. It was kind of like housewives doing business as. We'd show up at somebody's house, women were dragging their little kids along, they got their dogs, and Ellen would show all these films, and we'd essentially establish the films that were being shown at the festival. And it was only one festival at the time in the fall, which was September.
Yeah.
And then, it started to grow. And then a number of years down the road, Ellen started the Short Fest. And now and I say, because I'm just peripherally a patron at the moment and do special events things for them, but it was always created for the locals. It was never supposed to be Telluride or Sundance or anything international. It was a way for locals to see films that weren't blockbuster films, from the studios, but independent films and international films and animation and all that. So it became really my penchant is to support it. So I was on the board for many, many years, and we used to bring a lot of the actors and directors here, which they still do. But at the time, Aspen was such a hip place to come to. I mean, in a cool way, not like the reason people come here now. So it was really easy to get top name, Harrison Ford had come and Michael Douglas had come, and he lived here anyway. So we had a really friendly festival. So, and we used to film at the ISIS. We used to screen at the ISIS, and Dominic and Kitty were there, and they lived in the apartment upstairs. And Kitty would come down, and she'd have her hair rollers in, smoking a cigarette, selling popcorn. And Dominic would get up on the stage and tell you sort of the end of the movie and why he didn't like it or why he did like it before the film. And then he'd say, this film's a stinker. Why don't you go back to Kitty and you can get your money back? But Ellen was very playful. And so we decided we'd serve food. So we got a margarita machine. And during in between films, we would have the local restaurants come and serve food down by the stage. So after about 3 days, you couldn't really walk through the theater because it was so sticky with margaritas that she couldn't walk from seat to seat. But we had a great time, and Ellen always had her little bottle of vodka out by Kitty's popcorn stand just in case she got stressed. It was a fabulous festival, and the Short Fest became world renowned. Right. Which it still is. Yeah. If you qualify for one of the categories in Short Fest, you are eligible to go to the Academy Awards.
Yeah. Did that start with the Short Fest, or was that with the Aspen?
Well, the Short Fest is the one that really put us on the map. Okay. Because of that. I mean, they have over 3,000 entries for Short Fest in the winter.
Wow.
And, I think this year 90 filmmakers from around the world came.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. I mean, I've been to festivals in several different ways, and it is fun when folks get to come and do that sort of you're sort of like your graduating class at the Aspen Shorts Fest kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. All the young filmmakers, they get together. We make sure they get to ski if they want to. We always have it just before the lifts close, so they can go up and ski, go up the gondola, and they have condos, and we comp them. We get their ticket. We comp most of their airfare and all their accommodations here, and so they all get together and collaborate. And we have a lot of people that come back that have actually gotten to the academies that premiered here. That it's a really fabulous festival. And now, they own the ISIS, which was a huge gift.
Yeah.
ISIS Theater almost became retail space.
Wow.
And our board stepped in. This is probably the third last year I was on the board, but we found the building was sold and they were going to put retail space in. So Neil Carbank at the time, who was the president of the board, is a real estate attorney. And he said, I'm going to make a deal with the city and I'm going to get the city to buy it. We're going to become, they're going to be our landlord and we will be their tenant and we'll have the festival. So that's what happened. So because of that, their ISIS was saved.
Wow, I remember one time Craig Melville was working for, I knew him as Dominic. And one day Craig was going in to get some supplies in the supply cabinet area. And I went in there and I could look up on the wall and I could see all the notes that all us kids wrote saying, please give Andy permission to see this R-rated movie. And I saw notes from every generation of kids on that wall, all the way up to like Andy Mill. It was amazing. I felt like that to me was the epitome of the old Aspen that I remember.
So true. Yeah, so Dominic and Kitty had it for 30 years.
Wow.
So about 2.5 years ago, when Ellen Kohner, who became Ellen Kohner Hunt, when Ellen died, they asked me to do a video tribute. So we had some people, directors and filmmakers from around the world send in some clips, but I did a lot of the local interviews and I decided to go find Dominic. So I went to Grand Junction. In fact, Greg Poshman went with me and to Grand Junction, and we interviewed Dominic. He's got serious dementia, but we kind of fed him his lines about, do you remember when Ellen and Gail Holston came to you and said, we want to start a film festival? And you said the theater is yours. And I said, Dominic, that's how the Aspen Film Festival really started. He's delightful. At the end of like an hour and a half, we were with him and he had photographs of the memorabilia and everything from the 30 years. And he said, come down to my basement. And I went downstairs, and in his basement, he had every single poster for 30 years of all the movies.
That's really
all
cool.
cataloged, pulled up and preserved, laying in the basement. And I kept thinking about those posters all the way home. And so they just started the fundraising to raise money to save the ISIS. When the Film Fest decided we had to buy the ISIS because we didn't really trust the city anymore and what they could do with us, and it could have diminished within a quick amount of time. So I said to Susan, the director, I said, I think I should go get these posters and we're going to have a poster sale. So I called up Dominic's son. He went, sure. I said, can I have some of those posters for the opening and we're going to sell some? And he went, you can have them all. So I had 850 posters that he actually delivered to my house, Dominic's son. And we started, putting them we started cataloging them. And George Sells, who had the Omnibus Gallery.
Yeah.
So Bob Rafelson had just died, and Bob was a good friend. And so Gabby, his wife, said, we're going to do a memorial for Rafe. And it's going to be the opening of the festival. We're going to honor Bob, and the funds will all go to the ISIS fund to buy the ISIS theater. So when I told George Sales that, he said, oh, I've got all collectible posters on linen from all over the world, all of Rafe's films, and you can have as many as you want. So he gave me thousands of dollars worth of these posters. So our little poster sale of ISIS posters became this enormous collectible film poster sale. And so I got Robert Wagner and Angelica Houston and Jill St. John and people to autograph them. We had them in Polish, Japanese, French, a lot of Italian. I bought the Italian one. They're absolutely stunning. Well, George's poster shop was really remarkable.
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember there's huge posters. Yeah.
So we sold quite a few, and we ended up selling the ISIS posters for like $20 a piece. It was really a remarkable thing, and we were going to have Dominic Lindsay Day and honor Dominic the day we started the poster sale, but it wasn't quite up to, his family came, but he really not up to traveling. But we were going to, Low Semple said, okay, we're going to have Dominic Lindsay Day. We're going to get a red carpet. I'm going to get a limo. We're going to put Dominic in the limo, and he's going to arrive at the Wheeler. And then we're going to do a scoop with him through the ISIS with the VIPs. And he's going to talk about the old theater. And Lo and I had a big plan. Kind of fell through, but it was a great idea.
What was so great for me was always the off season was always sort of harsh for a lot of folks. I mean, my parents had condos and stuff, so we sort of were on a different thing. But the off season sort of had this big lull. It was everybody was excited, everything was going, and then off season would come and it would slow down. And I remember one of the best things that happened which was great, was that when it was slow like that, that's when Nick would show all those old movies and bring back and recycle some old movies that we might not have seen. So it was like, I actually got to see a lot of movies because he did that. He brought back old flicks.
He did.
Harold and Maude and things
Harold
like that.
and Maude, yeah, exactly. I remember opening night at Up and Smoke. It was pretty hilarious being a kid.
Yeah.
And the bat, remember the bat would come out? The people were smoking in the theater. It was Up in Smoke, and the bat would come in and swing around, and you could see him because of the glowing with the light and the smoke. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was a really, it was Cinema Paradiso. It was our own Cinema Paradiso in Aspen, and remarkable. It was just part of the fabric of this town.
Well, I'm so glad that you were involved in some of that, because without that, it might not have happened. I feel like it takes a group to kind of make something happen. It feels like,
As a lot of us old timers, Gail Holstein was very instrumental in it. Martha Luttrell, who joined our group really early, who was a big agent from LA, and she championed it. And Mary Ryerson was on our board for a long time. We had a really strong, and it was fun. We had a really fun board. And Ellen always had some new clever ideas that she was instrumenting. So, and I think that, how many kids, how it was such a part of your life, wasn't it? The ISIS Theater.
My first job was at the Playhouse. And with Don Swales, and so I ended up seeing a lot. My work was at the Playhouse, but then a lot of the movies, the good movies I liked, like Alien and all that stuff, I was over at the ISIS. So I'd end up at the ISIS as much as I was over at the Playhouse, and both of them. For such
a small town, though, what an awesome option to have two different places you could go.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, Don Swales had certain studio releases and Dominic had other studio releases, and that way they would swap them around. So if Alien showed at the ISIS, then it would eventually show at the Playhouse, but it would show at the ISIS first because they had a deal. So it was a way of not stepping on each other's toes, and it was just movies that were released with whatever studios they came through. You know,
Yeah,
at least that's what I remember.
Agreement. Yeah. I mean, we almost became a town with no movie theater 3 years ago. It was
Wow.
that close. About 6 years ago. Actually more than that, but came close to not having a movie theater other than Wheeler, which is a different, it's a different.
They have so many events that it's really not a movie theater. I mean, they can show special screenings, but